time in our organization. And then they also came out to visit us. And they visited us. Tricia was a part of that too. I think they came to see several of our residential homes, and then also toured our site-based services and our day program. And wow, you have to keep this really close. Okay.
That's going to be my cue to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess they say almost swallow this thing. So, anyway, so I'm going to let Jimmy talk to you for a minute about what that process was like when these people came to tour our day program that he was running at the time.
Yeah, I remember the day they came out, Gail and Debbie, yeah, from Maine. And I remember my boss at the time, Matt, came early and said, you know, you're doing a great job. We love this program. It's everything about it's awesome. These ladies are going to come tell you that it's not awesome. Don't take it personally. And yeah, it's all right. But don't take it personally, and you know we'll talk about it later. And that's what happened. They came in and told me about running a segregated building, and I swallowed my tongue and just waited to see what would happen. You know, and then over the course of events, you know, the decision was made to kind of close that down, and I was heartbroken. I was like really important to me. I didn't really get the whole concept at the time, and you know, because everything I'd heard up until that point was, oh, you're doing a great job. This program's amazing. Everyone loved it. Parents loved it. And so it was kind of confusing for me, for sure. But it's worked out since.
So, yeah. Yeah, sorry, that's annoying for us. I hope it's anyway. So yeah, so after the subject matter experts came to visit us at CTA, we had an opportunity to go visit them in Maine. We went to visit an organization called KFI, run by Gail Fanjoy, and we're given an opportunity to see people being served in a more individualized way that was not site-based or facility-based. It was more supporting people with a really strong emphasis on employment and supporting them from their homes to engage in, you know, to connect with their community, to be a part of their community, to be seeking employment, and just a more individualized way of providing the services. So it was myself and our executive director, Dustin Erickson, and the director of our site-based services that Jimmy referred to, Matt Alstrom. We went together to tour this program and look at things in a different way, and it really started to kind of make sense to us. And so I think it was on that trip that we started to buy in, so that we were just invited to be a part of this process. And you know, the background of all this was the Settings Rule and its approach and coming. And I think that at some place along the line, we shifted our attitude about it and started to look at it more as an opportunity and not a compliance issue with the Settings Rule, and more of an opportunity to look at transforming our services to provide services for people in a very individualized way, and really just changed our attitude about it. And I think that just really opened up a whole new world for us and how we deliver our services. So that's kind of how the story started. Thank you, Jimmy. So this is just to outline kind of what we're going to go over today and how we try to put a framework to the work that we've done over the last few years. And so these are just kind of the basic sections of what we're going to go over today, and the process that we developed. And it was challenging because there was no roadmap for any of this, really. We had to kind of develop our own way, blaze our own trail, and learn along the way. So, the very first part was what we've been talking about so far, and that was making the decision to really change, to close our day program. And that, like I said before, I don't know that we really knew that that's what we were getting into, but we did make a shift in our our view of things along the way, and we decided to make that change. So we made that decision. We started really just by having the conversation internally, because it was really hard. Like Jimmy said, he was in charge of that day program. He was proud of that. We were all proud of that. We'd been told by so many people that what we were doing was a great thing, and so it was really hard, and we had to start internally in our own organization as a leadership team to try to convince people that delivering services in a different way was the right thing to do. And so we took about a year of doing that, really, of talking with our whole internal team, and then starting to reach out to I guess what you consider our customers, and people we support, and their parents, and their guardians, and their support coordinators. And we held open house meetings where we invited those stakeholders to come, and we could present to them the shift that we were going to do in our services, and try to get their buy-in as we made that big change. And then we had to make a plan about how we were going to execute this, because we had about 80 people that were attending that day program, that we had to figure out how we were going to serve them in this more individualized and person-centered way. So, is this your turn? Okay.
Hold it really close and talk loud.
I'm going to hold it like this. Is
Yeah,
this weird
like a
for the
TV.
people in the room, though? It seems like
You're fine.
Like a 10-4 situation.
okay. I'm the rubber duck.
Yeah.
Okay. So we, I think what I wanted to say on the planning, pre-visualization, and all that stuff was super important, and we wanted to minimize the impact to people as much as possible, even though we know that we were going to change everything. I remember for about a year attending person-centered planning and being asked by support coordinators and parents, what are you doing? We hear you're closing. That's insane. And so I think at that point we started to kind of develop a message, and it was all the quick information about how we were changing, why we were changing, what kind of options we'd have for folks in the future, and I think those conversations really kind of started to be the format that we would apply the philosophy going forward to, and we would come up with these pretty concrete rationale for what we were doing, and we just kind of hone that message over the course of about a year, explaining things to people, and then eventually moving. So this solid plan has those 4 pieces in it. This person-centered plan, so, attending those, either Sally and I, or Sally or I attending those, and getting that message out. And then internally we created a document called the Plan for Inclusion. And that document's, likes, dislikes. It's a really toned down. It looks a lot like the Discovery Staging Record. Really just about that individual, their likes and dislikes, so we could come up with lists of things to offer people in their homes, out of their homes. And that's a nice document. It comes up with lists of 20, 3 themes, list of 20, if you're familiar with Discovering Personal Genius. That's kind of the format for that. And so 3 different interests, and then 20 places where those interests happen in the community. And through that, we came up with a lot of themes and a lot of lists. We got a little loopy after a while, and we just get as creative as possible. And we have some kind of fun themes that we'll talk about. I have a list of them. A lot of kind of creative, fun things that we did.
Share that with me. Yeah, those plans for inclusion, that was a document that and a tool that we created ourselves, and we had an individual meeting for every single individual that was exiting the day program and transitioning to receiving their services from home, with a focus on employment and connection with their community. And so we had, it was kind of similar to having a person-centered planning meeting, but it was in preparation for the exit of the day program, and what were people's likes and dislikes, and what things were non-negotiable for them, and who were they connected to maybe at the day program that we didn't want to lose those connections, because it was a loss for some people. Some people enjoyed the social aspect of it and different things. So we tried to get out what was it that they were enjoying from the day program, and how could we recreate that in the community. Like, we had things at the day program like, Zumba class and yoga class and things like that. And it was like part of like transforming for us was getting that concept of, we drove past 3 yoga studios to get to the day program so that they could do yoga in a segregated setting with people with disabilities. Why can't they just go to the yoga studio next door, or does their local rec center offer these types of things? And so it was really just shifting our attitude about those things. And so these plans for inclusion were a lot of brainstorming about, what do people want to be doing? How do we find that in their community and make that possible for them to go do from the comfort of their own home, go explore these things that they're interested in, engage in these things, and then come back to where they're comfortable and not have to be told that for 6 hours a day you have to go in a building and do it from there. Right? That's the basic concept. So it took us a lot of time. We had those individual meetings for every single person. And we came up with, like Jimmy said, we used Griffin Hammas's methodology of discovering personal genius as kind of a framework for us to develop people's interests, lists about their interests. Are you guys all familiar with that? No? Okay, become more familiar with that. Super important. Yeah, Griffin Hammas, discovering personal genius. It was a game changer for us, and here's a little story about that. So one of the things that happened with us was Ashley Lance. Has anybody been to any of her trainings? I think she was just here recently. She's brilliant. She's awesome. And she's been one of our subject matter experts all along the way. And she came to visit us during that year before we had really started, when we were just having the conversation and things. And she asked me to pick a person that we could apply this discovering personal genius concept to. And so I chose a person who is a very dear friend of mine that we also provide services for. His name's Colton. He is a brilliant young man who's really a savant about birds and pretty much everything about biology. But so in discovering personal genius, you come up with 3 kind of broad themes about where people's interests lie. And with discovering personal genius, it really has a strong emphasis on employment. That's what you're trying to get at. And so Ashley asked us about Colton, and we came up with 3 themes for him. And Tricia was there that day. It's a day that we'll probably never forget. and this is before we had our plan really to exit everybody. It was just still kind of in the exploration stage about what we were getting ourselves into. But Colton's 3 themes were teaching. He loves to teach people about everything that he knows about the living world. Agriculture, I think, and birds. And so we were talking about different places in the community where you could find people who had similar interests, where those things were going on. And he narrowed down birds to chickens. He said, really, it's chickens that I'm interested in. And Tricia was there, and she's like, well, I know some people that run this place called Urban Farm and Feed, and they have like a farm and a storefront, and then I was like, well, I was at a local restaurant this weekend, and I saw that in the refrigerator case there, they were selling Clifford Family Farm eggs. That's got to be somewhere around here. They said it was local, so Google is your best friend at this point, right? And we take off on the great chicken chase. And before we know it, we're like out in Clifford Family Farms, all dressed up like this with like 5,000 chickens around us. And Colton is in heaven, and he met Julie Clifford, who runs the farm, and she's equally knowledgeable about chickens. And we went and visited Urban Family Farms. And at the end of that day, Colton had a job. He had a job for Urban Family Farms, and it was kind of life-changing for me. I was like, oh, that's how you start to conceptualize how you get somebody employed that has a disability that you might think is super challenging. It just gave a framework to start to think about how you go about doing that. And so we at CTA, we fully embraced this discovering personal genius concept and coming up with themes for people and lists of where they would find those things happening in their community, and use that as our connection and our framework to how are we going to do this. You know, what are people going to do if they're not in a building all day? You know, with these things being offered. So that really hooked me, and it kind of set forth the rest of the journey that has been, I would say, pretty well successful. So learn more about discovering personal genius would be my suggestion there. Do you want to take a turn? Do you want me to keep going? Keep going? Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. So, okay, so then, you know, and create a solid plan. So like I said, we had like 80 people in this large day program. We had to create a plan to transition them out of that program and provide their services in an individualized way, kind of based on what I presented about their interests and how you could find those in the community, and really individualizing those for each person. And so we just you know, set forth a plan. This many people in this month, and we decided to do it over 6-month span. And we started in January of 17, and we were going to do it within 6 months, like I said. You know, and it was complicated because we had all those staff that worked there. Where are they going to work? How are we going to make sure that they still work for us and don't panic and lose them along the way? Because we know how critical that piece is as far as keeping our staff. So that was, you know, part of the ongoing conversation and part of the transition plan about, okay, who's going to work where and with who. And so we really analyzed who has the best relationship with people and those kind of things. And so we just had a really concrete, firm plan about this many people during this month on this date. This is how it's going to happen. And we just set forth that plan, and we stuck to it. And we found that over time, as the closer we got towards the end, we just had to cut the cord, and we sped it up and ended up doing the transfer or the transition in more like 5 months. So, and I think I've talked quite a bit about how we provide the services. So, you know, it was, again, having those plan for inclusion meetings for each person, really setting forth putting a lot of thought into each person's daily routine, like how would that look? And it was, we got a lot of pushback. Parents, support coordinators, it was funny, and it's taken time for them now to see, like, sometimes I hear things like, my daughter is so much happier that she can get up at 9 and stay up till 11. Like, simple things like that because the day program was a 7 to 3, whatever. People were getting up, but times they didn't want to get up, and so it was important to help people find the rhythm of their day and what they wanted that to look like. And we've tried to really cater to that and provide the supports when people want them. And we found that some people are more like night people and some people are early morning people, but just to do it for each individual person and not to say that it has to happen for everybody in the same way. So in that, the how we provide services, that was really individualized to come up with kind of daily routines. Again, a strong emphasis with connection with their community. That's through volunteering, work. We always are looking for those opportunities, and we'll talk some more about some of the successes that we've found along the way with that and helping people. There had to be a lot of training for our staff. There still is. It's ongoing, all of it. It's not, there's no end game that we found. You commit to this change and you continue. It's a big transformation, to do a whole organizational transformation like that. It takes a lot of commitment, and it's so rewarding when you see people being supported in an individualized way, how they want their day to go. It's kind of life-changing for everyone. So Jimmy and I have spent a lot of time on the road. We continue to spend a lot of time on the road, traveling to all the places where people live, teaching the staff, learning from what we're seeing, and continuing the journey. So. Oh, yeah, a lot of things that were met with a lot, and I'm sure this won't be a surprise to any of you, but, just resources are scarce to some degree, and you run into roadblocks of, that's are real, but staff present often of challenges with transportation, which we all know is a real challenge, staffing shortages, and money to do activities and those kind of things. And we just always try to come with the attitude of what do we have? What, we all know that all these things are scarce and difficult, but what do we have? What can we access? People use public transportation, whatever. We try to get as creative as we can and try to not dwell in the barriers, but focus on what do we have and what can we do with what we have. So again, it's just really, I think it's your attitude so much about what's possible. I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to give you okay. You don't want it? Okay, I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to let you go for a bit. So a lot of another critical part was, putting together a core group to lead this journey, and you have to have buy-in from your leadership. This isn't something that you kind of do, because what's the point, If you have to really commit that you want to make this change, and I would highly recommend it. I think it's been the best thing for our organization. It's been very energizing personally. Just has kind of re-engaged my commitment to supporting people in the best possible way and in the most person-centered way. And so, but we really had to get that buy-in from our leadership, all the directors of our organization. We had to create and get some additional expertise. We have a benefits planning expert on board, because there are a lot of questions when people are working about their Social Security, how it impacts things like that. And so we created a position, a person that already was there supporting people with their representative payee type of issues, but we had her go through additional training to be a benefits planner to help with those Social Security issues when people are working. And then also we transferred Jimmy's position from running our large day program to being our customized employment coordinator and discovery artist. And so we've changed his role, and so we're really kind of partners in crime and delivering this service. Okay, I'm going to let Jimmy go for a bit. Yeah.
So the next step in the process is to just jump. Just do it. At some point, you have to say we've prepped and we've done all the planning we can, and hold your breath. I have a friend. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Stressing you out.
I have a friend who used to call it the boom tube,
Okay.
and it's like once you get in, that's it. You're on until you get to the end.
Yeah.
The fun thing about this boom tube is there's no end. It just keeps going and going. So some of the things that we did when we jumped is acre training, which hopefully people are familiar with, but that's the basic level for becoming a CRP and helping people with customized employment. But we put all of our team coordinators, all of our home managers, a couple of assistants, I think, at this point. There's a lot of our team is trained in the ACRE certification. We spent a lot of time and effort getting that level, and now we're working on. I mean, we just have bright stars that come up in our organization, and we say, okay, that person needs to get on the track. So it's kind of part of a track in our organization. ACRE training is important. So we also have the customized employment training with technical assistance from Griffin Hammes. And we have put all of our residential coordinators through that, all of our directors, most of them, and a couple of our managers. We're really kind of trying to embed these concepts of employment first and things like that into our company from top to bottom, as much as it makes sense. I have this video. I love it. It's the pops up on another thing. Oh, you can't see it.
Not showing. It should still be sharing the screen. Huh? There we go. That now.
Just move it physically. But what you're looking at is Griffin Hammes. He does this systematic instruction training where he teaches somebody how to assemble a bike brake. Systematic instruction is really kind of a cool thing. It takes place in almost silence. In fact, the only person talking here is Brady. He's learning how to put the brake together. There's no praise. There's no reinforcer. The room's asked to be very, very quiet. There's about 40 people in the room. Asked to be very, very quiet because, especially people with sensory processing, it's distracting, right? So we remove all distraction and do it very quietly. There's a series of 3 breaks. He starts with the first one, just kind of demonstrating how it goes. I can't remember how many parts are. We spend all day ourselves learning how to put these together, and then we end up by teaching someone how to do it. But by the 3rd set of breaks, Brady's doing it by himself, which is pretty awesome. And I've seen this over and over again, this way of training people who previously maybe people felt weren't trainable. Doing really complex tasks really quickly and doing them with a high level of precision. It's fascinating course. I don't know if they're ever going to offer it because I think Carrie's retired, but
We still include it in the.
awesome.
You still offer it?
So it's still offered. I would highly recommend this as a way to approach training folks. Really good, but it was important to us. I don't know what that says. I'm going to say yes.
Hope for the best.
All right. So Sally and I, and with a lot of help, have developed a series of trainings. So we would identify what the next step was as we went, because we didn't know what the next step was, but we'd get out there and we kind of had an idea where we wanted to end up, and we'd get out there in the programs and we'd say, okay, this is the next piece, and we'd develop a training and have people come in and we'd do trainings. Just really trying to get those ideas and philosophies instilled in our people. Because I've always said it, these concepts are a really tiny step once you make it. Before you make it, it seems impossible, but then once you're there, you're like, why didn't we do this, years ago? Does it make sense? And then just at every point, integrating discovering personal genius, the methodology into our culture. We made it part of our QA that we would do, still do. But really using that as a framework for how we were going to go about figuring out what people loved and how to get it. And then what we brought to the table is developing this new thing that we call exploration. Obviously, we'll get into a little bit, but derived from what we were already doing, but with a slightly different focus, so that it wasn't 100% about employment. It was because that was confusing to our people, our staff couldn't figure out how we were supposed to get people jobs. We were asking them to get people jobs, and we really weren't. We have people for that. We have people for that. Other people, but so we had to switch up kind of the way we talked about it. Yeah, and we developed something I think worked out pretty well. So part of those meetings, ongoing quality assurance, every 3 months we go out into the field and we have a report card that we look at, and we kind of try to really evaluate where we're at. Again, not knowing what it's supposed to look like, but finding things that work. And it's been a great experiment because we're able to go out and, one set of management teams is doing things this way and it's really successful, and we take those things and apply it to other places, and that's been really useful. Part of this QA though is that Sally goes out, we go together, but Sally's there, and Sally's our program director. She's important. She's been around for a long time, and she's people know that she's serious about what we're doing, and so for me, there's a little bit of teeth in what we're asking people to do. Like, it's not a suggestion. We really do want you to go to, the Automall or whatever, Boondocks. So yeah, that was the weird part too. Is let's go have a good time. Like, just have a good time. What are we supposed to be measured while we're out having a good time? We'll get to that. We figured that out actually, but they're used to showing up and then crossing off boxes on a list of things that we did that day, and that's not what we wanted. We want people to go out and experience the world around them, their communities. That QA applied also to not just the homes, but to the way we went about things so that we could identify what was working, what wasn't, and what we needed to change. I think we've had a really good critical eye about what we do. I think that's important. I love to celebrate success as much as everyone else, but I do spend a lot of time thinking about what's not quite working and how to fix that. We meet a lot and talk a lot. So those quarterly trainings that we do for managers and assistant managers are all guided by our QA visits. So that's where we talk about our successes so that we can share them, and then we talk about what we need to fix, and then we talk about what's new, because we're always learning what's new. And then that thing about being flexible is just this acknowledgement that we don't know the answers. And it's funny to walk in and say we've got to change everything and we don't know what it's supposed to look like. But being flexible. But we know what's working and what's not working and what's right and what's not right. So that part's been easy because our goal is that we don't have a goal, but we're guided by principles that we've worked into the fabric of CTA. And I think those things guide us. So we know where we're at. So transformation is hard. It's fun. It's a moving target, and I think that's what we're getting at. Like it really, we don't know where we're going, and every time we reevaluate where we're going, it changes just a little bit, and we're flexible about that. And our whole team is, and we have a lot of support from our executive director, who's just understands that we don't have all the answers, but we're constantly working towards the good ones, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about Hannah. This is one of her art pieces, and what we like about Hannah's art is that it's called process art. That's the style of art. If you are at a museum, see that somewhere, that's what that is. And what it is she has a very similar process. And really the beauty in what she's doing is those little tiny changes to work. We started with her at the day program where we had an art program, and she could spend like 2 to 3 minutes without getting really upset about whatever, the lights or the noise. It was noisy there. And but eventually it turned into hours, and something that was really vital to her is to come in and do art. And I remember when I went through and did my acre certification, and we selected someone to practice on to do a work strategy assessment. I chose Hannah because I'm an artist, and she's an artist, and art is viable as a job, and if we're talking about creative employment, that's about as creative as it gets. And I remember like being out doing informational interviews and things like that, and coming across a gallery that wanted to show her work, and they had a cancellation or something on their calendar, and that gave me 2 months to frame a bunch of artwork, but we went and had a show. She's now got, she's got her own studio. We're making journals now. She shows up at the farmers market in Liberty Park a couple times a year, and she has an international following on Instagram. And really, like, her story is kind of a metaphor for our story, where we don't know where it's going to go, but we're just going to keep applying the paint until it works out. This is a little video. Do the same thing. That's Hannah at the studio. Great. This is from last December. Oh, I don't know about that music. It was free, the music. Turn down a little bit. But this is her show at the City Library from last winter, and she's successful. She's popular. She does all sorts of fun things.
She auctioned off a
Yeah, the Madison House. She
autism after 21.
had some prints get auctioned off there. Lately, there's Sally. We've been trying to come up with this. This is her. This started years ago when we would have little shows out of the day program. She'd see her work and then give a slap. That's her signature there. But her whole affect has changed. I mean, she goes to the studio. They now go shopping for supplies. They're out volunteering for Clever Octopus, the Creative Reuse Center for art supplies. Like her studio is got a door that's open. People visit her in her studio all the time. Just drop by, see what's going on. I cut this in because it's funny.
Can I just say something for a second?
I think Hannah was just another example of like, what did she love about the day program? She loved that she went there to paint. How do we recreate that in an individualized way in her community? And so, yeah, so now she has her own little studio, and she rides the train there. It's right by the tracks. She rides the train every day. She loves routine, so she does it at the same time every day, and she goes and she paints, and then she has a team around her that helps her present that in a way to the community for employment, and she's being successful at that, and she's doing what she loves. And it was really fun. I think it was maybe last spring that Serena Lowe came, who's over the implementation of the settings rule and whatnot, and we took her to see Hannah, and she cried. That's like good to make somebody from the federal government cry in a good way. Like, I was like, yes. But just to see. And so, Hannah's somebody who could have just painted in a corner in a day program for the rest of her life, and I guess been satisfied at some level. But to give her that way, and it's so fun to see her claim her work at a gallery showing or whatnot, and that is kind of her signature, go and touch her art and whatnot. And to see her at this Autism After 21 breakfast conference that was all about employment for people on the spectrum that happened a little while back, and she was invited to have a couple of her works there for auction, and they sold, and she was there having coffee and a fabulous breakfast at the Grand America with everybody else, and it's just, I think it's that, like, what do people like? How do you do that for them in an individualized way and not force them to go do it in a segregated setting? So I think she was a great example for us, and she's living her best life now. I mean, she's known, she has a presence in the art community. People are kind of fascinated with her, and she's somebody who has significant support needs. She's on the spectrum. She doesn't use words to communicate. She communicates a lot through her art. She's kind of grumpy, tortured artist. She's lovely, and she's living her best life. This is an illustration of, so we said that we did these plan for inclusion meetings for every single person that was exiting, and each person had 3 themes that we came up with about their interests. And so this is just kind of our creative list of people's themes, and it's wacky and it's weird and it's fun, and it's been just a fun journey to help find like where you find these things in the community. Social chaos, people go into, I don't know, mixed martial art like kind of things, and just really trying to get creative and conceptualize what people enjoy and how you find that in the community. All right, anybody guess what this guy's themes are? Okay. What about the can-do? Big, right? Yeah. So we came up with supersized because he does. He likes everything, like the biggest everything. So we support him to go find the biggest things he can find, and that's what thrills him. He also loves metal, so we've got this giant metal, I don't know even what that is, praying mantis that he went to visit. This is a gentleman that is employed, is working, and has been for years. He works at a movie theater, but in his spare time, he's out exploring his themes. So we really use that as a framework to guide how we support people and what they're doing. And so it's fun work, right? And creative work. Can you guess what Sean's themes are here? Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, maybe in a broader sense, sports. Yeah, he's a sports nut. Yeah, what else do you see?
Arcade games.
Yeah, entertainment. He's a big entertainment guy. How about the last one? Superheroes, yeah. So we really, and through our journey, we really, Griffin Hammes was so kind to us and letting us use their terminology about discovery, but we were applying it in a broader way. It's intended to be employment focused. We were kind of using it as a way to figure out what to do with people during the day, and not necessarily with a exclusive focus on employment. If that came about as some sort of opportunity, we would jump on it and try to figure out how to come up with a job. But we really also needed to just figure out people's days, like what they were doing. And so we ended up coming up with our own terminology or whatnot, and we call it exploration. And Jimmy will talk to us about that in a little bit. But this is another example, a nice example of using people's themes to connect with their community. This is Jessica, and two of her themes were law enforcement and nurturing. She's just fascinated with cops and watches CSI, like that's her thing, And she also is fascinated with babies and has a nurturing theme and interest. And so we ended up finding that there was a diaper drive at the police station, like 2 streets down from her, and got her connected. And she got all these diapers donated, and she took them over there, met the cops, and ended up being the one who got the most diapers donated, and ended up in the Cottonwood Heights newspaper. And it was just a great example of like how you can use those themes to try to scour the community of what's going on, to connect people with their interests and find people with like interests, because these guys that was their interest too, like getting all these diapers donated for people in need. And so it was a win-win for everybody. And now they know who she is, and she's their neighbor, and just using that to connect people with their communities. I just really recommend you guys learning more about discovery. And I think it's really helpful in doing this work. So we got really tired, actually, for a time. We had to do these lists of 3 themes and lists of 20 for about 100 people. So that was a lot of work. It was a lot of brain-bending work. So this is an example. So when we did those first plans for inclusion, before people exited the day program, we came up with these lists. And so here's a picture of Kenny, and he's got 2 of his lists there, one being a theme of entertainment, the other of nostalgia. He loves everything from the past. We used these lists, and we hung them in people's homes and in their rooms and things for a while, not for forever, because you stop looking at things if they're there for too long. But to send that message and to get people, our staff, thinking about it, and to get the people we support thinking about it. And here he is, like, he's adding to his list. So this is the entertainment list. And so, you know, these are the things that we had brainstormed, but then he added, and he's pointing to Las Vegas. He's like, hey, I want to go to Las Vegas. And it was cute because he had a water bottle that said Las Vegas on it, that he had been to Las Vegas in the past, I guess, and he went and got the water bottle and copied the letters of what it said on the water bottle onto his list. And he went on to, he's now employed at Beer Bar downtown. He has this crazy ability to tell you how every celebrity ever died. It's funny as it could be to listen to him, but he knows the days they were born, what they were known for, how they died, and all these fantastic facts. And he knows everything about music in the same way. And so he works as a barback at Beer Bar downtown, and he's like the guy that you want to hang out and talk to, who can tell you about the music that's playing and what that artist died, they choked on their vomit or whatever, you know. Like, it's so fun. He's so fun. And I think that that's a really exciting part about this work too, and how to connect people with their community is finding where they fit. Kenny fits at Beer Bar. He just does. He's the guy behind the bar that's kind of singing last call for alcohol or whatever, you know. Oh, I don't remember exactly, but he got his first paycheck. It's his first job, got his first paycheck to take to his 50th birthday in Vegas. Right? I know. These are the stories that keep me going and keep us going, like that this work is the right work to do, to really think about how you individualize these. And so in this case, it was just those 3 themes on the list and him adding to it. And he's so funny. He like changed, I got the radio station wrong. I put KRCL and he was like, no, it's 103, the arrow, you know. And I learned a lot from him. We weren't asking people enough directly. And we started making sure that people were in their meetings to help us come up with the list. And so that was an important, like, things you learn, you know, like, it's about people. Why don't you have them there? So that was really cool, and it was so fun to see him. It was, you know, another little part about Kenny when Gail and Debbie from Maine came to visit us, and they visited the day program that they didn't like, that Jimmy was running. Kenny was there, and Kenny looked so sad. Kenny hated going there. He hated it. And I remember it wasn't my program really, but I was on, you know, the tour with these ladies to see all of CTA. And so I wasn't in charge of leading the tour or anything, but I remember going to sit by Kenny on a bench where he was sitting, all hunched over and not wanting to be there, just to try to make the picture look better. And that, when I reflect on that, I was like, that told me too, this isn't right. So if he doesn't want to be here, why are we forcing him to be here? And we had a lot of those people. I don't know what, you know, your programs are like or whatnot, but at CTA, again, we support a lot of people on the autism spectrum. That environment, with 80 people in a large room with echoes, it was completely overwhelming. And it really took, you know, like, it really changed things because when they were attending the day program during the day, they were coming home their homes, and that's the part that I'm the director over, and people were fatigued. They came home after the end of that day, and I think they were completely environmentally and socially fatigued. So they really just didn't do a whole lot. So this has been a journey, a QA issue for Jimmy and I to make sure that people are active and engaged, and it's not, you know, it's not about the staff and having to get their buy-in that it's fun. Go out, put your phone down, get going, get out, explore. And so it's these stories that we can share about people's successes that then engages people that to do more for people. And so that's a big part of our QA, is making sure that people are active and engaged in their community. But yeah, Kenny taught me a lot about. It was funny. Our executive director, Dustin Erickson, he'd known Kenny for years, and he didn't know he could talk. Yeah, and now Kenny, you know, working at beer bar, going to Vegas, goes to Wendover, he has a girlfriend, he like all these things, and he's like, he doesn't stop talking, and it's been fascinating to just see when we delivered services in the way that he wanted. He opened up, and now you can learn so much about people's fantastic demises, like in the entertainment industry. So, all right, do you want to take a turn? Okay.
Do it.
Right here.
Yeah.
All right, so this is kind of where we're at now. We're building our social capital with successes. We're sharing our stories and preaching and teaching wherever we can. We're working on solidifying our culture. We're getting we've got a formula now that we feel is pretty viable, and we are no longer experimenting as a main goal. Now we're working on getting this into a way that is replicatable, that we could open a new home tomorrow and have it work, and have a system in place that really works. We're also seeing the development of what we're calling persistent inclusion activities, and that's just a long 3-word word for clubs. But those are kind of the results of doing this work as we start developing organic relationships out in the community. It's not the best photo, but in the center there in the water is Bob, and he is attending water aerobics, which he does a couple times a week. He knows all the ladies. If he's not there, they miss him, and he is having the time of his life at the rec center there, or at Vasa. He loves being there. So this is Doug. He lives up in Layton area. Yeah. One of his themes was outdoors, and he got a job working for the county or the city up there. He's
Fruit Heights. Yeah, city.
He's cleaning trails.
Like takes care of the hollows up there, like picking trails. Yeah.
He loved that. But last year, the year before, it was winter. It was the year before. It was winter, and so he doesn't work trail cleanup in winter. And his group home manager, I think, or his coordinator got a call like, "Where's Doug at? We miss him."
The ladies at the
So they created some more jobs for him indoors because they liked having him around. It's part of their team. So it's just great. We get him out doing what he wants, and people want more of him. I've been told he doesn't necessarily care for working inside, but he likes to see the ladies. He likes to visit with the ladies.
This is our friend Brady that we saw in the systematic instruction video earlier. Brady, one of his themes, and it's a really strong theme, is small electronic, what would you call it, machinery? Small machinery. Yeah, he's fixated on leaf blowers, weed eaters, and vacuums. And he's got a large collection of them that he's very proud of. And we got a connection in the community at some apartments downtown, big apartment complex. You see them everywhere now. And he vacuums them, and he couldn't be happier. That's his love of life, is vacuums. And, you know, it's this little job that probably a lot of people wouldn't want to do, but it means the world to him. And it was one of these examples where Brady, when we first started supporting him as a younger person, he was very highly self-injurious and wore a helmet all the time to protect his head. And now to see him over the years, again, when you're focused on what he's interested in, that stuff kind of fades away. The helmet's gone. He works downtown. He is adored by all these people. I guess for Christmas they got him a brand new vacuum, and it was a big deal. And they have him be a part of their weekly lunch that they go out to as a team. He's not just the guy that vacuums, the guy with a disability or whatnot. He's like the center of it all, and they all adore him, and there's so much to love about him. But when we found that job, his family had been in protection mode for so many years because his self-injurious behavior was really destructive and harmful to him, and they just wanted to make sure he was safe. And they were like, no way, Brady can't work. That's too much. It's downtown. Who knows what kind of crazy people are down there, and on and on. And it really took some gentle encouragement with his family to allow us to try. And it basically just became that. Can we just try? And if it doesn't go well, we'll stop or whatnot. But now, they're so proud that one of their 3 sons, all their sons are working, including Brady, and he loves his job, and it's just made a huge difference. And he just bought some killer leaf blower, backpack thing, again, living his best life, and he works, an hour to 2 at a time. So we're not, we find what works for people and what the amount that they want to work and works for their life. And so it's really opened up the world for him, new friends, increased self-esteem, really that dignity of risk to try something, and maybe fail and maybe succeed. In this case, he succeeded, and it's really enhanced his life. So I think, we've covered some of these. A couple are little new additions to the list that we'll talk about for a minute. But I think we both said over and over, discovering personal genius. Find out more about that, Griffin Hammes. It was really a game changer for us. We still, we're trying to be more pure in that work, and we reserve discovering personal genius for employment, and really following it in the way that it was developed by Griffin Hammes and is authorized through vocational rehabilitation at times, and drives this discovery staging record. And we do a lot of that work with VR. Jimmy kind of heads that up, but it is in collaboration with our residential teams. And so those assessments and authorizations and things are done, and we explore that for the people that we're supporting. And so we're doing that work. We've talked about the plans for inclusion and how we use those tools, and we could share that if anybody that's interested, but how we use that to really start to conceptualize people's lives and what they wanted them to look like, and and then employment first. That was, I think, really important for us at the beginning, is to really full-heartedly believe everyone can work. And you have to believe that, I think, to do this work. And some people have significant support needs, and I think that the way that we've tried to look at that is that just means we're going to have to work harder and be more creative, but we can do it. It can be done. And so I think you really have to believe in that, and when you do, it really opens up a world. To see Kenny and Brady working, and so many other people that I think so many people would say they're not employable. So I like to just prove them wrong. And it just is harder work, but we're here, so let's do the good work. So another thing that we added on to what we're doing at CTA that I think has been very complementary is personal outcome measures. through the Council on Quality and Leadership. I am now a certified trainer, and I also have one of my residential coordinators who's also a certified trainer. So if you're not familiar, that is an assessment that looks at quality of life indicators for people, and not necessarily just people with disabilities. It could apply to ourselves, anybody. It measures quality of life and what is important across 21 different outcomes. What is important to people? What outcomes do they want to have in their life, and what supports are in place to help them achieve those outcomes? And there are things like people choose where they want to work, people have friends, people are connected with their national supports, people have the best health. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but back in the day, DSPD used to use this as their quality, their tool to measure the quality of the services that we were providing, and we were audited to that. So I come from that era, you know, and knew about it, and then it's just been in the last couple of years that I really was like, that really matches a lot of what we're doing, what we're trying to get at, and so that was, I felt like a piece that we were missing was trying to, you know, evaluate what's important to people, and this is a really tried and true assessment that's been around for decades. That we decided to revisit, and it was still very applicable, and so became a certified trainer, and so now we are embedding that throughout our organization. We are certifying all of our leadership all the way into the management at the homes, so that it is language that we all speak, and it is something that for person-centered planning purposes, we come to the table having done this assessment to really look at what outcomes do people want in their lives, and that's where we focus our work. And then all this exploration and discovering personal genius is very supportive to that work, because it's helping people explore their communities and their interests, and so it's kind of really become a great match, and so that's kind of where we're at CTA right now. I think that's been a really great addition for us.
So I know we're getting close, right?
Yeah, just want to make sure we have time for questions.
I'll just talk really fast.
I have a whole bunch of them. I guess we have some more.
It's about
slides.
15
1,000 slides left.
Oh, 1,000?
This is just, this is what feels that way. I don't know. So yeah, this is just a brief overview of what exploration is. We have 3 themes. We err on the side of creativity. No drive-by exploration. You have to actually get out of the car, and you can't just look through a window. You have to actually do things. So there has to be a goal, a doing activity. We don't consider employment when coming up with the lists. Doesn't mean that employment is not a part of this or couldn't be a part of this, but we don't consider it when we're coming up with those lists. These are more about life, which is what work should be anyway. So it all works out. And then if someone does move on to discovering personal genius, we already have like a pretty good list of things that we've done and tried. There's 10 activities per theme. These are specific activities at specific places with specific addresses. The more specific we can make these activities, the easier it is for our teams to follow through and get them done. The activities are all integrated, they're all individualized, and they take place in the community. We don't go in big groups. We go one person to one person, and we go. And then we want our teams to get everything that we've come up with, all 30 of those done within a year, 52 weeks, which means they have 30 weeks to get stuff done, and then 22 weeks to do it again. Stuff that worked, or be creative about other things. Our days look a little bit like this. So everyone has the opportunity to take part in community life every day. We get out, we have something planned. And that can be a group activity or individualized, whatever, but we're getting out. We go to a museum, we go to the pool, rec center, yeah, any place like that. We also have individualized in-home enrichment. So we take those lists, like some people like cooking or putting together models, or we make sure that stuff is offered every day. Volunteering opportunities for those who want to. Like on Wheels has been really popular. Exploration, they do a week. And then we have daily activity calendar versus a themed activity calendar. And this just all goes back to that idea of planning and making sure that our staff know the difference between what's a daily opportunity to get out and take part and what is, a focused themed activity. And they put it on a calendar so that they can plan it out. If they don't plan it out, they're not going to do it. It does take effort to get people to do the Zoom. Things like that. And then we've worked, we have a new IT person who's helping us. She came from Therap, and she is helping us put together a way to really capture what, especially the exploration stuff, what that was. So we have good data being collected on everything that we're doing so that we can do QA and keep track of where things are at, make sure things are happening like they're supposed to. So we do the QA quarterly. We have a report card. We keep pictures and stories, and we reinforce that to our people over and over. I did a training on how to use your cell phone better, and we're going to replicate that for this audience sometime soon. But how to take good photos. Just a couple other little things. This is a fellow who, I want to get the story right. He had a hard time getting out, and a lot of our people do. And it's like, well, we'd go here, but he's likely to break a window or take off all of his clothes, things like that. So we came up with this concept of 5-minute exploration, and just what can you do in 5 minutes? One of the things that you can do in 5 minutes is go and get a donut. And Robert went, and it turns out that he loves not just getting a donut, but the specific donut place. He's down there now a couple times a week. Everyone knows him. He's done some work trial stuff there too, like cleaning and stuff, just to get some skills. And the manager up there told me when I was talking to her about this, oh, they're closing. They're reopening as a different store with a new manager. And she asked if she could get some phone numbers for the new people. And the old manager, the old owner of the store, said, oh, don't worry. They know all about Robert. And they're excited to meet him. So he's found his place.
Another thing that's kind of been fun that we've seen teams start to do is do spontaneous exploration, where you can tell it's in their brains now when you have stories like this come up where they're driving down the road and Morgan, for whatever reason, saw this Utah facility and she's all, and they're like, all right. Then they pull in, and before you know it, she ran like a forklift, and she had an orange vest on. They had all these videos, and they loved her. And they just took somebody listening to her indicating that she had some level of interest. Why she was interested in that, I'm not really sure. But she became friends with them and had, a great connection and got an opportunity to try a lot of different things the staff were listening, and you could tell that they got the concept enough that now they're scouring for opportunities where people could get connected with their community. So now, we're at the point where we're starting to be able to measure some things because we've been into it for a while. So we're at 2 years now from people exiting the day program, and we are starting to be able to measure things like, I feel like I need to knock on wood or whatnot, but we have had almost non-existent injuries to staff, and we had significant injuries going on before, both in the day program and at home, and it is virtually dropped off, which was huge for us because we support people with very significant support needs, and just to see that happening told me that we were on the right track. We've also seen decreased staff turnover. We've done work to inform our human resource department about what people's themes are. And so they share that information with prospective employees. going to work at different places and try to match themes between staff and the people they're supporting, because then you get more buy-in and they know about the, you know, if it's sports and you find sports fanatic, they know what's going on, they can share that. And so that's, I think, helping with our turnover, just decrease destructive behavior. It's just fun to be able to see that we can start to measure these things now that have been these really positive side effects of the work that we've been doing. And then seeing jobs and seeing people, you know, engaged in inclusive activities where they're going to be missed if they're not there. And that's happening more and more. People being out in their community, making connections with people. And when it's one-on-one, you know, I think part of the thing that we really, it was hard for staff. A lot of times, you know, there's safety in numbers. They want to travel in a group and whatnot. And we really have had to hold firm on the exploration activities and the discovery activities are one-on-one in integrated environments in the community, because when people are traveling in groups, then there's like this barrier around them, and the community isn't as likely to interact with that single person when it's a group of people. And so in doing these one-on-one activities, we're really starting to see people make friends. Like Bob is friends with the ladies in the pool if they miss him if he's not there, and that kind of thing. So those persistent inclusion activities are really fun to watch. And I think what we really came to realize is what we're trying to get at is happiness. Is just wanting people to be happy, and what do we do to try to help people be happy. And now within our organization, we're starting to try to measure happiness. And I went to an autism conference. I don't know if any of you were there recently at UVU, but there was a board certified behavior analyst who has written a whole book about measuring happiness and the focus on happiness, and pairing our staff engaging in activities that make people happy, as opposed to asking people to go help somebody in the restroom on their first day, and things that are private and that are maybe uncomfortable for people, and waiting until you build that trust and having them engage in things that make people happy. So we have a strong focus on happiness at CTA. We're starting to try to measure it and quantify it, and our behavior analysts love that, because you have to get data and measure it and stuff for it to be real. So we're trying to measure happiness. I won't go into too much about this because we're about done, but it happens in the world too. Bhutan, they measure happiness for their country. They're not concerned about the gross national product. They're concerned about gross national happiness. And so they're onto something. And so that's what we're trying to do at CTA as well, is to come up with our own list about what is it that that we can quantify that is demonstrating happiness for people, because that's what we're here to do. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks for being here today. And I think Tricia will let us know, or do I open it up for questions? Anybody here?
If you guys are willing, you know, I know we're a little bit over
Anybody?
time. There are a couple of questions from folks online.
Okay. Does anybody?
So the two questions have to do with funding. Is everybody that you're supporting getting funding for one-to-one staffing? So I'll let you answer that.
The question was, is everyone that we're supporting,
just getting one-to-one?
Are we getting one-to-one funding?
Doing these individualized activities.
Right. Yeah. No, we're not. We're receiving the same funding that we were at the day program, that just kind of transferred over. So there are times of the day that there are shared staffing. We plan for times for the one-on-one activities and have shared staffing for the rest of the individuals at the home while that person goes out and does their one-on-one activity. But no, people are not funded for one-on-one the entire time. So we just have to schedule accordingly and plan. Planning is the big thing about that, and distributing the resources that way.
I think that so far that's
yes,
all
sir.
the questions from online. So
in kind of correlation with that, so your group size, even when you're going out, is 3 or smaller? 2,
generally 2 to 3. Yeah, and for just regular daily activities, that group is is fine, like when we're applying our philosophy to what we're doing, you know, just kind of the regular things that people like to do during the day, but we really try to provide that opportunity at least at a minimum once a week for one person to be supported to go out to explore their individualized theme. Yes.
Are you using the DSG Day Supports code then for these individual
Yes.
services?
That was the agreement with the SPD, as I understand it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you guys still have a center?
We do. We have a very small group, and it's individuals who are still living at home with their parents. And time will tell exactly what we're going to do with that, but it's a very small group, and it's more community-based, where it's more of a hub where they leave from. But that's a very small percentage of the people we support, so we didn't discontinue those services for them.
So the individuals that you integrate in the community and taken out of that program, they will have just your residential.
That's correct. So that might be the unique beauty of doing it, and I don't know what it's like for your organization if you support the people that you have in your day programs residentially. If that's the case, I think it was a beautiful match and very doable, and people have, it seems that they're much happier.
CTA done this primarily in the Salt Lake area or the Wasatch Front or statewide?
We have done it also in our northern region. Yeah. Yes.
How have you guys kind of got around the transportation issue, or are you guys just kind of going as a group with the transportation? How does that look?
It looks in a variety of ways. Sometimes in a group, utilize public transportation where we can. Sometimes it's about planning. A lot of times it's like, okay, this person wants to go here at this time, person wants to go here. And sometimes there's one person that drives and drops people off and picks people back up, you know. So it really has to be creatively solved and individualized to what, you know, the people in that group want to be doing. So it is still it's a hardship, and but we try to use, you know, a lot of people have really enjoyed public transportation more than we thought, and I think it's trying to get past that it's a pain to use or whatever, and it really encouraging people to utilize that, and then once they find their way with it, then it becomes a good alternative. But it's something it can be a barrier that has to be overcome for sure. I know we all are challenged with that. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how the roles and responsibilities of your staff have changed since you started? And maybe that's just quick hitters, but talk about how that's different from when you started to now.
Well, you know, for the leadership in the home, we came to realize there's a huge planning piece. If they didn't plan it, it wasn't happening. And so we came to realize that we really needed to have some accountability on their part for like some planning calendars and things like that, so that we could look at those and make sure that they were theme-based and they weren't just generic types of things, because that wasn't what we were going for. And so their roles changed. Also, the addition of all the training, the acre, the customized, all that was a huge additional piece for our team members. And then just that accountability, you know, and I think a lot of it was myself and Jimmy I think they were like, they keep showing up. She keeps coming to visit. And it's been challenging. I don't, you know, for our organization, we have 28 different homes. So it's every 3 months going 28 places, and it's time consuming, but it's been really energizing for me to get out and seeing people. But it's that accountability and going out and making sure, what did you plan? Did you do it? You know, and that there isn't this disconnect of, oh, here's this pretty calendar, and then nobody went anywhere. You know, there's all kinds of levels that we have had to overcome. And I'm really excited about this new edition of THERAP. We really have applied a good data collection system to just daily support things that people are being provided, to make sure that you can show documentation for billing for the service. And then also additionally, we take data on exploration and discovery that is more, staff have to answer a series of questions about what they did and what the person liked and did they meet anybody out there. And so I'm excited about that. That's a new addition. We just went kind of around all our programs and implemented this data collection for all the people we support, and I'm really excited about. So there's some new responsibilities for staff there that we're really holding them accountable for taking the data to prove what we're doing, and so that we can see remotely too what people are doing and not waiting till we're out there to see. So more accountability for all of us. It has really we've all had to up our game, but I think it's now becoming enough of the way that people are kind of used to it. And yes.
Like, how often are these individuals participating in something towards their theme?
At a minimum, once a week,
Okay.
where it's a planned activity going out at a specific place and specific
And then
time.
when they're not, what are they doing then for their regular?
A variety of things. You know, people, again, we're getting at what their interests and likes are. A lot of people like to go do different things at their local rec center. So most people that we support have a pass to their local rec center. They probably do some level of exercise or something during the day. A lot of people volunteer. So we help coordinate those activities and get them there. So we think that, you know, that's a good participating in the community life and being connected with your community is a good resume builder. And so there's activities around that. Many people are employed, so they may be going to their jobs. They do activities at home and working on theme-based things at home as well. They do what we all do. We participate in taking care of our house. They, you know, it's from home. So from there, we venture out into the community and explore just like any of us do. We go out and we do our errands and things that we need to do, and we go explore our interests, and we might work and we might volunteer. So it's just, I think, more normalized as more like what our lives look like, as opposed to somebody as being told you have to go to the specific building for a certain number of hours a day. That's what you have to do. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. That's true. She got out. Is this one of your themes?
I feel very integrated right now.
Do you? Yeah. I don't know that you would.
Themes well.
I'm not sure. You probably have better themes, but yeah.
I'm a little interested in that supersized praying mantis too.
You like that? Is that one of yours? Okay. Yeah, it's been fun because then we've all developed, you know, we are much more focused on our own themes and so. Any other questions?
Are you using those themes just with these day program? Have you introduced any of this with like youth programming or anything else?
Yeah, so I think it's really starting to go viral at CTA. Like, yes, we are using that. I don't know to the extent that we have applied it, but I think that other services within CTA are seeing the benefit too. And yes, there is application. We have an employment person that's helping in our after-school program with employment for people, and they use this same methodology because they're very in tune with Griffin-Hammas. I think that's really where we're headed in the future, is trying to get at the youth more that are in our after-school programs, because we have a few of those, and applying these principles there to help them with employment as they transition out of school and those kinds of things. So I think it's a system that's very easily replicated across services. And we've got our behavior analysts on board. They know what it is. I've got them certified in personal outcome measures. And so we're really trying to embed these concepts within all our services.
In terms of like the systemic roadblocks besides transportation, what would you say is the sort of the big barriers right now to really?
Well, I would imagine you
Stumbling
guys,
blocks, so.
yeah, I mentioned you guys are encountering similar thing, but there's a real staffing issue right now. And that's just, you know, the nature of all businesses and things, but that's a real issue for us right now. So then that gets at, you know, making sure that we're getting people out into their activities. And we just don't, there are all kinds of stumbling blocks, but we maintain our high standard and say, what do we have? What can we work with? We can't say what we can't. Don't tell me what we can't do. Tell me what we can. We just toe that road, you know, so that we try to avoid excuses, you know, because it's real easy. If you're like, okay, that's right, you couldn't do it for that reason. Okay, that's right.
Sounds like from what you said, for working on these particular things, staffing retention isn't harder, it's easier.
If you make good matches, you know, it can really help keep people. Mm-hmm.
I would say that in every home, if there's a
That's true. How to overcome it. Yeah, we're like, let's connect with this person and let's see how, like the example I gave about dropping people off, like one of the homes came up with that. And so we connected somebody who was like, oh, well, we can't. Transportation is too much of a barrier. We'll go talk to Rhonda. She figured it out. Like, you know, trying to, like, some, you know, work with people, you know, that present you with the barriers and look at people who are good problem solvers and work with the resources. There's all kinds of roadblocks and resource shortages, but we've just tried to not let that stop us.
Buy-in from families.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yep. Yeah, big time. Like, oh, that's why you did that. Okay. Yes. I can only think of one situation where a person's family said something else was better. So, yeah, it's really been well received. Not at first.
Not initial.
Yeah, they thought we were crazy, you know. Yeah, and everybody praised us for what we'd done, you know, at the day program. So it was a big decision. Yeah. We good?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for this opportunity.